Okay. Ah! Hello everybody and welcome to the Penelope Possum channel with your hostess Penelope the Possum. I'm a little bit late today because I had set everything up. I completely forgot I was supposed to stream today. And I also forgot that I was supposed to continue the story. Yeah, I completely forgot about this. I'll be honest, guys. I'm sorry. And, we'll get back into it then. I think we stopped around here. No, he's weird, Sasha said. Who dresses their kid like that for a wedding? Oh God, Jordan, what's wrong now? You two have been acting weird and quiet all night. I saw that same kid when I was little. Jordan's voice cracked when he spoke. We were camping on Gardner Lake. He was standing on the docks, just staring out into the darkness. He wanted me to bring him the Scoutmaster. By the time I brought the Scoutmaster there, he was gone. That's creepy, Sasha said, flicking the band of her watch. But it can't be the same kid, Jordan. That was many years ago. No, Sash, he's wearing the same uniform he did that day. You see that hat he's wearing? It's called a beret or a garrison cap. My dad wore the same thing when he was a scout in the 70s. Four of them watched as the boy tapped the Scoutmaster on his shoulder. Scoutmaster Jeff turned around, his jaw dropping when he saw the little boy. Cheetah, will you stop? Can't have anything with these cats around, I swear. Can't have anything that even vaguely interests them. The other adults at the table smiled widely at the little boy's presence, many wondering out loud if he was a family member or related to someone in the wedding party. Can I help you? Scoutmaster Jeff asked, forcing a joyful tone. You're dressed up tonight. If you tell the truth, you will save us all, the boy said, his face and tone completely deadpan. What was that, buddy? If you tell the truth, you will save us all. The boy screamed, drawing the table to complete silence. At the end of the table, someone shattered a wine glass. I'm sorry, is your mommy or daddy nearby? Your parents and my parents, the boy said firmly. If you tell the truth, you will save us all. All eyes were on the Scoutmaster and the boy. All voices ceased, save for the distant wedding band. The Scoutmaster stood up from the table and knelt at the boy's level. I'm sorry, everyone. I recognize you now. William, you've gotten so big. I'm sorry, everyone. That's my cousin Henry's kid. His family's going through a tough time. Scoutmaster grabbed the boy by the hand and squeezed. Your daddy went outside to get some fresh air. Let's go find him. Your parents are my parents! The boy screamed as the Scoutmaster whisked him away through the grand double doors that led to the courtyard by the lake. Our parents are dead. If you tell the truth, you will save us all. As the door slammed behind them, almost everyone in the venue turned to a normal activity and chatter. Sasha, Jordan, Colt, and Jade glanced at each other, then back at the door, several times before Colt rose to his feet and crept out the same doors into the bitter night. A few moments later, Jordan and the others followed. The stone courtyard, a popular feature in the summer and fall, remained completely dark, its moss walls blanketed by snow and ice. Beyond the walls of the courtyard, Colt spotted the Scoutmaster and the boy, standing on the venue's wooden dock, covered in poinsettia petals from a photo shoot hours earlier. A black and white motorized fishing boat was moored to the docks. They're on the dock over there. That's the Scoutmaster's boat, Colt said, hands stiff in his jacket pockets. The others gathered around him, each placing a hand on his waist. They're just yelling at each other, but I can't hear what they're saying. What are you planning to do, Colt? Jordan's voice trembled at the word do. Whatever you're doing, please be careful, Jade followed. Sasha nodded. What's the plan, Colt? What do you mean? Colt said. You guys aren't going to try and stop me? They shook their heads. We've been through too much together these past few months, Sasha whispered. I'm going to stop him, Colt stated firmly. He's hurt too many people. Cold breeze blew in from the lake. From inside the venue, they could hear the band playing the recessional song, loud cheers as the wedding party entered the room. As the music and loud cheers carried into the night, Scoutmaster glanced over his shoulder, taking a few steps away from the boy. Then he ran, full sprint, back into the venue, not even noticing them. You, wanna go back in, Colt? Jade asked as the Scoutmaster's voice boomed over the mic, triggering more cheers. He shook his head. You wanna talk to the kid, don't you? Jordan sighed as Colt uttered, yeah, under his misty breath. Do you want us to come with you? Only if you're comfortable. None of us are comfortable, Sasha replied with an awkward chuckle. But let's go find out what that weird kid wants. As the four of them trudged through the snow, a young boy echoed part of what the Boy Scout chant into the wind with strength and repetition. Help other people at all times. Help other people at all times. Help other people at all times. As they stepped onto the dock, Colt gently placed a hand on the boy's shoulders. The boy felt cold to the touch, colder than the harsh December wind. He expected his hand to go through the boy, but it remained firm as the boy glanced up at him. I failed, the boy said in a low, solemn tone. I failed my oath. What oath? To help other people at all times. I grew up to hurt other people. I grew up to be a monster, and that monster doesn't want to save any of us. Colt heard the boy sob, deep, uncontrollable sobs. Are you Jeffrey? Boy nodded, tears piercing the dock like fallen icicles. But how? How is that possible? Scoutmaster Jeff is... As the boy wept, Jordan spoke hoarsely. Alive. You're a living ghost, an Ikiro, aren't you, Jeffrey? The boy nodded again as he continued to sob. Each tear froze and dissipated on the wooden dock. A what? The ladies muttered collectively. An Iriko is a living ghost. The Japanese believe that an Iriko is a disembodied spirit that leaves the body of a living person to haunt people or places, sometimes nearby, sometimes across close distances. 3 of them stood, jaw agape, as the boy stopped weeping. Why are you here? Either Jade or Sasha asked. Colt couldn't tell. He was feeling drowsy again. I've always been here, the boy said coldly. What do you plan to do tonight? I need them to see me. I need them to see the others. Do we have Irikos? Jordan asked, his voice a low and faint whisper. The boy's frosty blue eyes affirmed his question. Where are they? In the sinking house. With those words, the boy began to shriek, his jaw stretching to inhuman proportions, his eyes retreating into their sockets. The shriek was so audible and unsettling that it caused the icicles overhanging the venue to crash into the courtyard. The shriek carried into the depths of the night, shattering the light from the stars and the ominous blue moon. In darkness once more, Colt not only felt drowsy, but as if he was following, much like the way he fell into the abyss of Gardner Lake as a timid 13-year-old. Ladies and gentlemen, Colt heard Scoutmaster's voice as he drifted back into consciousness. He found himself standing on the dance floor next to others who were visibly shaken, especially Jordan with moist eyes and teeth chattering. I can't chatter my teeth on purpose. I'd have to actually be cold, so meh. Caleb and Samantha Saunders will take their first dance as husband and wife. As Colt saw light again, the crowd cheered as the newlyweds took their place on the dance floor. Let's get the hell out of here after this, Sasha harshly whispered. I have no idea what's going on. The first dance commencing drowned out Jade and Jordan's words. For some reason, the band was shrouded in darkness. Spotlight shined on the people as they took their places, gazing tenderly into each other's eyes. The spotlight shined on the couple as they took their places, gazing tenderly into each other's eyes. Colt was surprised about how genuinely Caleb looked at her. She looked beautiful, however, and Colt found himself genuinely happy as they began to dance to a song he recognized by the band Lifehouse, but forgot the name of. This is the first normal thing about tonight, Colt said. All the others could do was nod and smile as hesitantly as the two glided across the dance floor in an elegant waltz. As the minutes passed, they smiled warmly at the happy couple and clapped as they moved into a break with an underarm turn. You both are right, Jordan said, not knowing whether to smile warmly or shiver at the thought of something else happening. This is surprisingly beautiful, but let's make our exit after. Suddenly, the music stopped. The spotlight shifted from the happy couple to the little boy, who was now holding a sleek silver condenser microphone with a long handle. The feedback from the microphone caused many people to cover their ears. I would like to dedicate a song to the happy couple to free the spirits within us tonight. The audience awkwardly clapped as the spotlight shifted to Scoutmaster Jeff. The hesitant clapping took to a loud raucous applause as the boy motioned for the Scoutmaster to step up to the microphone. I would like my cousin to sing this song with me. The boy's voice became distorted, and the feedback from the microphone increased, booming so violently the crowd ducked and gasped as it boomed into the walls. Scoutmaster shook his head furiously, but then the boy curled the mic's handle, causing him to slide across the floor into the center of the dance floor. I think the band knows this song. The boy twisted the mic again, and the band started to play that familiar, awful song that had haunted the lake for many years. The five-piece band was stunned as they started the notes of Swanee River. The piano player and saxophonist appeared to be losing control of their fingers, while the bass player and guitarist seemed to enjoy the notes coming from their instruments, eyes completely glazed over. The boy twisted the microphone twice more, subsequently twisting the jaw of Scoutmaster Jeff and the movements of Caleb and Samantha into a smooth swing. He laughed heartily, extracting the notes and movements of the God-forsaken song from all involved. Way down upon the Swanee River, far, far away, there's where my heart is turning over, there's where the old folks stay. As the boy sang, the band played, and the Scoutmaster unwittingly sang along. The ground beneath them shook, shifting the tables and chairs. The audience screamed along with the band as they scrambled to grab their instruments and stayed afoot. Jordan helped Sasha to her feet, and Jade helped Colt to his, while the boy remained at the microphone, singing the chorus once again. This time the words caused Colt to have an even sharper migraine, and a bright flash exploded across the room, overwhelming Colt with countless memories. Colt saw himself at 12 in the living room with Scoutmaster Jeff and his father. His father was sobbing and angry. Scoutmaster explained that his urges weren't natural, but required self-control. Colt saw himself at 13 in a dark tent, waking up to Scoutmaster breathing down his neck. The Scoutmaster explained that Colt had a medical emergency and needed monitoring. Colt saw himself at 11, asking Jordan why he was crying after he came home from a fishing trip that Colt had missed due to being ill. Jordan told him that he'd taken a bad fall and had an upper leg injury to show him. Colt saw himself at 14, a year after he quit the Scouts, talking to Jordan in the cafeteria about Benji. "Hello, it's okay. You gotta do your dishes. Dishes are important." Talking to Jordan in the cafeteria about Benji being arrested in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven, smashing beer bottles and screaming. Benji claimed in court that his father had abused him. Colt remembers Scoutmaster Jeff picking him up from high school and bringing him to AA meetings. Colt saw himself as a sophomore in college, abruptly ending a romantic encounter after being touched below his waistline. Later that night, Colt cried to Jade that he didn't know why he was so scared. When the bright flash ended, Jordan and Colt looked up at the ladies with tears in their eyes. "Scoutmaster Jeff is a monster," Jordan screamed, pushing a chair into a table. I was only a kid. I was only... Sasha grabbed Jordan and pulled him in closer while he screamed into her chest. I never knew why, Colt said as Jade hugged him. I never knew why I was so scared until I remembered what that man did to me. The crowd was abuzz with chatter as several more men, including Benji and Caleb, approached the scoutmaster, who stood unmoved as 4 men approached him from all sides, each more rage-filled than the other. You said my father caused my bruises, but he never touched me. Benji screamed, raising a fist to his face. I should kill you right now. You told me that I couldn't like guys and girls. Caleb took a step closer as the scoutmaster bit his upper lip. My parents sent me to therapy because of you, but they didn't believe me when I told them. I can't. Caleb stormed off into a vast sea of angry and confused faces, which were gathering nearer as the men continued to shout. Samantha frantically chased after him. Our parents trusted you, a dark-skinned man with a fedora said somberly, grabbing the lapels of the scoutmaster's jacket. His twin brother, who wore a matching fedora, his head hung low, shaking violently. They trusted you to take us on a fishing trip because they both had to work. You know what you did to us. The scoutmaster took a few steps back. The crowd of over 100 people, including the band, stepped closer to Scoutmaster, shouting and swearing. Little boy stood motionless in the middle of the floor. Scoutmaster scrambled to the serving table, grabbed the butcher knife, raising it to the air. What are you gonna do with that? Benji shouted. Are you gonna stab us all? I dare you to try. How about you start with me first? With the knife trembling in his hands, the Scoutmaster took a step toward the boy, stabbing the butcher knife into his neck. The boy dropped to his knees, grasping his neck, but no blood fell through the gash. The boy tried to scream, but no sound emerged. As his eyes rolled back into the sockets, his image untethered like a ball of yarn, each string a vibrant color of his original image. Colt ran toward the boy, attempting to grab hold of the strings, but as each strand fell into the palm of his hands, they disappeared into thin air. Colt fell into blackness again. You seriously forgot? Sasha giggled. Jordan played with her hair until she smacked his hand away. Hon, we're going to Samantha's wedding today. You were sleeping all day, Jade said. You were talking really loudly in your sleep, and you said you never knew why. Oh no, Colt said. Oh no, it couldn't have been. Some dream you're having, Jordan said. You're saying Scoutmaster Jeff was a monster and his Erica was there, and I haven't heard that word in a long time. Is that the one we had when we were kids? Yes, he's the officiating pastor today. He's right, Sasha said, looking up from her phone. Were you close with the guy? We all were. Couch shouted. It couldn't have been a dream. It couldn't have been. Maybe you were, Jordan said, but I barely remember the guy. That's impossible. How could you forget what he did to us? How could you forget what he did to Benji and Caleb? Benji and Caleb? Those guys who used to bully us? Did he punish them? If so, they deserved it. Whew, they were real jerks. Jay put an arm around his shoulder and directed him to his room. We've been through a lot through these past months. More than anyone should have to go through. I don't know who this guy is, but if you want to stay home, you can. No! Colt shouted. No, it must have been an awful dream. I was at the wedding, and so much strange stuff happened. Unnatural, even. We all need therapy of some sort, she said. I'm starting again when my insurance clears, and even Sasha and Jordan are talking about it too. If you're having dreams like this, maybe you should. Yeah. What he did to us wasn't a dream, though. Will you talk to him about us? Jade agreed, but for the entirety of the car ride, Colt stayed silent, just as he'd done all those years. He was beginning to forget, too. He was beginning to forget what exactly it was Scoutmaster Jeff had done. Even his face was starting to become blurry. Anger and sadness deep inside Colt remained. When Colt's friend asked him if he was okay, he couldn't even nod. He just stared straight ahead as the windshield wipers as they crushed the slush and icicles. Excuse me. When they arrived at the venue, there was an inordinate amount of people standing out in the cold, scattered around the venue and by the shores of the lake. Some of the guests carried flashlights. Another one pulled a barking dog on the leash. Jordan pulled through into the parking lot. Samantha rushed up to the car in her off-white wedding dress, a mixture of makeup and tears rolling down her cheeks. Sasha and Jade threw their arms around her. What's wrong, sweetie? Why is everyone out here? It's awful. We can't find Caleb. All morning he was talking about some terrible dream he had, and none of it made sense. He talked about having to find a house. I don't know. I thought he was over it when he got to the venue, but when it was time for the photo shoot, no one could find him. That's terrible, Jade exclaimed. Colt, where are you going? Colt? As his friends shouted, Colt started sprinting toward near the venue. The snow was thick, knee-deep to his ankles, and he wasn't particularly good at running. After almost tripping over a jagged rock and nearly smashing into a stone beach, he reached the courtyard. Colt bent over to catch his breath. By the docks, he saw Scoutmaster Jeff in his black and white motorized fishing boat. As Colt neared the docks, Scoutmaster waved at him. By golly, the Scoutmaster said. If it isn't Colt Chambers from Troop 0172, it's been ages. I didn't know if you've heard about our groom disappearing. I could use a good scout and a fine man like you to help. Sure, Colt said, stepping into the boat. Did he have his boat on him? It's the darndest thing. Colt cringed as the Scoutmaster threw an arm around him. I know he has a kayak, but no one knows. You've become nice and strong. You're so grown up now. He might be in the middle of the lake. Why do you say that? Just a feeling. As the boat sped toward the center of Gardner Lake, Colt shivered. He felt his hands go numb, sweat dripping down the back of his suit to his waist. Despite all that, he remained completely still. Gray and black clouds hid the ominous blue moon. The lake was silent, and even the cool winter breeze passed their way. Colt instructed the Scoutmaster to shut off the boat in case they could hear any yelling. As the Scoutmaster turned the key, Colt wrung both of his hands around his neck and squeezed as hard as he could. To Colt's surprise, he didn't move. His neck was too meaty, so Colt put him in a chokehold, squeezing him even tighter. I know what you did to Caleb that day on the boat 15 years ago. Don't you dare look at me that way. Not now. Not anymore. That's why you brought him out here. He remembers everything, and so do I. I remember everything you did to us. Every awful, disgusting thing. The thing you didn't count on was all the disembodied spirits you created from what you did. You can't keep them in the house forever, and you can't kill them all. Even if you killed him, even if you kill me, they'll still be there. Oh, we're almost done. Scoutmaster thrust Colt's arms away, freeing himself from the chokehold. As Colt stood up, Scoutmaster Jeff punched his nose, which caused him to stumble backward, falling overboard into the water. Despite being a good swimmer, Colt fainted at the sight of blood and sank rapidly deep into a dark abyss. He awoke to find his body smashing through a pine door. His body kept sinking until he hit an oak staircase. Just as he was about to double over in agony, he felt something pull him. He glanced up to see Caleb, completely unharmed, and smiled gleefully. Surrounding Caleb were several other beings he couldn't quite discern except for the green outline of their Boy Scout uniforms, each patched with the words Troop 0172. Their faces were warped and pixelated. Their hairstyles looked strikingly familiar. However, to the type Colt and his friends were as teenagers. He even recognized one with the man bun Jordan had as a teenager, and the blue streaked spiky hair Benji wore. Colt, Caleb, and the beings, which now numbered several dozen, pushed their way to the surface as the never-ending cavity of walls of the old colonial house fell beneath them. The portraits on those walls were empty. The last part of the house that fell past them was a living room with a mahogany grand piano. At the bench of the piano sat a little boy with a khaki green shirt and pants, smiling sheepishly as the house collapsed once and for all into the depths of the lake. Colt and Caleb were the first ones to emerge from the water. The black and white speedboat circled the perimeter, its propellers chopping through the waters. As soon as the Scoutmaster noticed where they were, he put his boat into reverse and accelerated toward them, its aluminum propellers cutting toward them like a buzzsaw on firewood. The rapid movement of the propellers and the screeching sound left them frozen with no time to react. When the blades were inches away from their heads, Colt saw a dozen warped and pixelated faces emerge from the water on one side of the boat, then a dozen more from the other. The sight of the faces startled the Scoutmaster as he stumbled backward off the pedal. 4 of the beings crawled into the boat and grabbed a hold of the Scoutmaster's legs and arms, tossing him like a rag doll into the water. Scoutmaster screamed as the beings piled on top of him and pulled him underneath the now crashing waves. Colt and Caleb climbed into the fishing boat, spent the next several minutes catching their breath as the submerged screams faded away. The lake grew silent once more. As Caleb turned the keys in the ignition, he heard the tinny, creaky notes of Swanee River echo into the night. And that was The Sinking House, a tale of a Scoutmaster who did horrible things to the boys under his ward. This story is credited to Tristan Mason. And it seems we still have a little bit of time left. So how about we... Oh, I know. Let's watch... some... you know, things. Oh gosh, I can't remember what it was. Here we go.
San Diego Air.
This is 4 innocent looking videos with disturbing backstories. Yeah, Scoutmaster Jeff definitely got his just desserts. Couldn't have happened to a better person, let's all be honest. Scoutmaster Jeff 100% deserved what happened to him. And I hope he suffers in hell for the rest of eternity. Not even joking. Anyways, on to more pleasant topics. 4 innocent-looking videos with disturbing backstories by chilling scares. Definitely. Alright. Let's watch this.
On December 20.
Once I post the video for this, I'll put the link for the video in the description.
1986, NBC7 San
Wait,
Diego
hold on.
aired a segment.
Let me know if you guys need it any louder or anything, but let's get right into it.
On December 29, 1986, NBC7 San Diego aired a segment on highway safety, offering tips on what to do in case your car breaks down.
Okay,
If your
no.
car should become disabled, the rule of thumb is stay inside. There are signs you can get to put on the back window to summon for help. If strangers should offer assistance, tell them to call police or the CHP.
Just stay in the vehicle, lock all the doors, turn on the emergency flashers, and wait for help to come. Even if you have to wait all night, it's better to be in the safety of your vehicle and spend the night than to try to walk and get assistance.
The segment also featured a ride-along interview with California Highway Patrol Officer Craig Pyre, who emphasized the dangers of leaving your car and blindly trusting others.
Anything could happen. Being a female, you could be robbed if you're a male, all the way to where you could be killed. Once you get in that other person's car, you're at their mercy.
This broadcast concluded with an interview with a driver who ran out of gas. He had pulled over on the highway and set out on foot to find a nearby gas station.
The bottom line, though, is that preventing all this trouble is easy. Be sure your car works, and as simple as it sounds, be sure you've got gas. Because even if you're lucky enough to get some, you still may be taking your life in your own hands.
Do you realize how dangerous it is?
Yes, I realize. In fact, I was putting the gas in, and a 18-wheeler came by and almost blew me away. Truthfully.
However, what seemed
Things I did today. I fixed a sink that wasn't draining properly because apparently I am a great plumber. Yeah, fun fact about the possum, she knows how to do plumbing. Yeah, that's not something you'd expect, but I know how to fix sinks, at least. I also understand a little bit about how to fix a toilet, but I am not strong enough to do it on my own. Do I feel any which way or passionately want to do plumbing? Not particularly. But it seems I have a knack for it. It seems... yeah. I know enough about plumbing to get by and to fix problems in my own house. I think that's good enough. If it ever came down to it, I might eventually learn how to do like more complex stuff, like learn the trade of plumbing. But that's like, that's not really a thing that I'm passionate about pursuing right now. That is not a thing I'm passionate about pursuing at all.
like an innocent public service announcement, was in reality aired in response to a horrific crime that took place in San Diego just 2 days prior.
Oh boy.
The victim of this crime was Kara Knott, a 20-year-old honors student at San Diego State University. She spent Christmas Day with her family celebrating the occasion and opening presents. After dinner, she made plans to spend the next couple of days with her boyfriend, Wayne Bautista. Wayne had severe flu at the time, and Kara wanted to nurse him back to health. So she drove to his house and stayed there for the next 2 days. On the 27th of December at around 8 p.m., she called her father, Sam Knott, from her boyfriend's place to let him know that she was on her way home. The drive from Wayne's house should have taken about 30 minutes, but when 2 hours passed with no sign of her, her parents began to worry. At around 10 p.m., Sam suddenly got up from his chair and said to his wife, "I'm gonna go find Kara." With that, he drove to Wayne's house, hoping that Kara would still be there. Unfortunately, Wayne told him that she left soon after she called Sam, and he had no idea where she was. Members of her family and Wayne began looking for her along the route she should have taken back home. However, despite driving around all night, they found nothing that could give them any insight into her whereabouts. Kara had vanished without a trace. That is until 5:15 a.m. when the family decided to drive down the Mercy Road exit ramp off of I-15. There, they found Kara's white Volkswagen Beetle. The driver's side window was halfway down, the keys were still in the ignition, and all of her belongings were still in the car. But there were no signs of Kara herself. The family reported this find to the police, who quickly began searching the area. Not long after this search began, they found Kara's lifeless body 70 feet below a nearby bridge. Later medical examination of her body revealed that she had rope burns around her neck and a mysterious round injury above one of her eyes. After a complete analysis of her injuries, the coroner concluded that she had been strangled before being thrown from the bridge. Other than these injuries, there were no signs of anything being done to Kara. This made it extremely difficult for investigators to pinpoint the killer's motive behind this horrific crime. There were no signs of someone else being in the car either, which also made it difficult to determine why she would drive off the main highway down an abandoned exit on her own. Kara's boyfriend was the last person who saw her alive. This made him the lead suspect in her murder, but he was soon cleared of any suspicion since he was at home recovering from the flu when the crime happened.
Yeah.
The only clue investigators had left was a receipt from a Chevron gas station about 15 miles from the crime scene. Kara likely stopped there on her way back. Unfortunately, questioning the gas station employees failed to uncover any new leads, leaving investigators with zero clues for where to look next. Without any other options, investigators turned to the media and broadcasted Kara's disappearance in as many places as they could, asking the public for any useful information. This also included the segment on highway safety with Officer Craig Pyre. Luckily, after these segments aired on TV, the Associated Hotline quickly received over 24 calls from women. However, instead of providing any information regarding Kara, these calls uncovered a far more shocking truth.
Ooh.
They said that a patrol officer had pulled them over in the past and told them to drive down the same deserted Mercy Road exit. According to these women, this officer kept them there for hours and would even sometimes get in their passenger seats. The officer they were talking about was 36-year-old Craig Pyre, the same man who was preaching on TV about how to stay safe on the highway. Craig tried to disprove these allegations with his logbook, which showed that he was writing a ticket at the time miles away from the crime scene. However, his logbook had clear eraser marks in that slot.
Yeah.
1 week after the incident, the San Diego Police Department began a formal investigation with Craig as the lead suspect. And it didn't take long for them to find mountains of evidence that proved his involvement. While searching his car, investigators found a yellow rope, which was just as thick as the
That's
marks
not
on Kara's
right.
neck. They also found his flashlight, which matched the wound above Kara's eye. However, the piece of evidence that sealed the deal was a golden fiber investigators found on Kara's sweatshirt. Forensic analysis of this fiber revealed that it was identical to the gold fibers in the patch on Craig's uniform. By this point, it was clear Craig was the one responsible for this crime. However, he remained adamant that he was innocent. But all the evidence and the testimonies from over 24 women allowed investigators to piece together what might have happened that night. As the story goes, Craig saw Kara driving alone and decided to pull her over down the Mercy Road exit, just like he had done with dozens of women before. However, instead of going along with him, Kara decided to fight back and maybe even threatened to file a complaint against him. That's when he lost control and hit her with the flashlight in his hand. Upon realizing what he had done, Craig now had two choices: let Kara go and risk ruining his career, or make sure she never talks to anyone again. Craig chose the second option. After strangling her with a rope, he put her on his car's hood, drove up the bridge, and threw her off the side. On January 16, 1987, Craig was arrested from his home and later sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. He's since applied for parole twice, but was rejected both times and is still behind bars. It's still crazy to think that Kara's case might have gone unsolved if Craig hadn't agreed to do this now haunting video interview. An interview he did where just days before, he had committed the murder of Kara Knott.
So fucked up. That is so
On June 2nd,
fucked up.
2016, a woman named Christina Kellen posted this video of her pet parrot talking like a human.
What kind of human?
On most other occasions, people will look at a video like
You can't trust anybody. Can't
this,
even
think
trust
it's
the
cute or
police.
interesting, and move on with their
Goddamn.
lives. But in this case, the video of a talking parrot became the key to solving a murder, one that baffled investigators for over a year. On May 12, 2015, at around 7:30 a.m., a woman named Connie Ree heard gunshot sounds from her neighbor's house across the street in Sand Lake, Michigan. But she didn't pay much attention to it, since the neighbor, 46-year-old Marty Durham, regularly hunted in the area. Connie and her husband Keith were close friends with Marty and his wife Glenn, and were familiar with the couple's habits. However, later that day, Keith notified Connie and told her that Marty wasn't answering his phone calls or text messages. So after finishing her work, Connie went out to the Durham house to investigate. The doors were locked and no one answered when she knocked. She assumed the couple wasn't home and went back to her house. But when an entire day passed without any word from Marty or Glenn, Connie became concerned and decided to check on them again. This time, she noticed that one of the doors was unlocked and went inside.
Fun fact, if you haven't seen somebody that you're worried about either because of advanced stage or mental health problems or something else, and you haven't seen them in a while and you go to their house and you hear buzzing behind the door, they're probably dead and flies are eating them.
At first,
really
she found
dark
the living
to
room,
say,
which was a
but
complete
it's
mess.
true.
It looked like the place had just been robbed. However, nothing could have prepared Connie for what she came across next. As she entered the master bedroom, she saw both Marty and Glenn lying on the floor, covered in blood. She immediately ran outside and called for help. A group of firefighters was already nearby and rushed to the scene. After taking note of the situation, the first responders pronounced that both Marty and
You know something I've never heard of? I've heard of plenty of killer cops, but I've never heard of a killer firefighter or I've never heard of a killer firefighter, like a killer or someone or some firefighter abusing their power like that. I wonder why that is.
Glenn were already dead. Both had bullet wounds on their bodies, and judging from the state of the rest of the house, it looked like a robbery gone wrong. But before they could begin investigating who the supposed robber was, something completely unexpected happened. About an hour after the initial report, a police officer who was on the scene noticed that Glenn looked like she was breathing. He walked up to her to check for a pulse, and that's when she opened her eyes and sat up straight despite having a bullet wound behind her ear. She was taken to the hospital for treatment. Miraculously, her wound wasn't lethal, resulting in her surviving the incident. Marty, however, wasn't as fortunate. He was shot 5 different times and didn't make it. Back at their house, investigators found a Ruger new model revolver under a couch in the living room. They also found several cartridges and 1 unused bullet for this revolver on the couple's bed. Investigators believed that this was the weapon used to shoot both Marty and Glenn. But they didn't find anything that could help them locate the supposed intruder. Without any other options, the police began investigating Marty and Glenn in hopes of finding
Man, I'm
potential
getting
leads.
hungry, guys.
That's
I
when they
haven't
made a
had dinner
chilling
yet.
discovery. Glenn's phone record showed that on May 11th, 2 days before Marty's body was discovered, she texted her mother saying, "Love you, sorry." Seconds after sending this text, Glenn's phone accessed a web page titled Ruger New Model Single 6 Single Action Revolvers. This was the same gun that was found in their home. After a more thorough search, investigators also found 3 letters written in Glenn's handwriting that were addressed to her children. Similar to the text she sent to her mother, these letters also contained apologies of sorts. When Glenn finally recovered enough to talk in October of 2016, investigators asked about everything they found. Glenn, however, completely denied ever searching anything about a revolver online and said that she had written the letters a long time ago. When asked about Marty, she claimed that she didn't remember anything relating to his death. At this point, Glenn was the #1 suspect. However, investigators didn't find any solid evidence they could use to bring her in for a proper questioning or make an arrest. After all, it was still possible that the incident was caused by an intruder, especially since Glenn was shot as well. This left Marty's case at a standstill, and it remained that way until June of 2016, when out of all things, a talking parrot single-handedly solved the case.
No.
You see, the African gray parrot in this video was named Bud, who originally belonged to Marty. He was later handed over to Marty's ex-wife Christina after his death. The thing about this parrot is that he was in the house when everything went down and witnessed everything.
Wow, yeah.
For those who don't know, African gray parrots are among the most intelligent parrot species. They're great at imitating human speech and even understanding the meanings of some words. They're also more likely to repeat what they heard during a high-stress situation. This is why, while in the care of Christina, Bud kept repeating what he heard on that day over and over again.
Probably about a month or so after Bud got here, I would hear him scream and squawk, and it would happen a lot at nighttime. But then one day, literally, he just kept going over and over again, the same and it sounded like two different voices. And I was just so freaked out that I took it upon myself to record it.
If we go back to the video of him speaking, we can make out what sounds like an argument between Glenn and Marty. Put simply, there was no intruder. Glenn and Marty had an argument where she was yelling and likely had a gun pointed at him. Now, while this video gave necessary insight into what went down, there was no practical way to use a parrot for testimony and convict Glenn. However, this gave the investigators the confidence they needed to pursue her more intently. They took a DNA sample and later discovered matching DNA on the Ruger revolver, the supposed murder weapon. Further interrogation also revealed the whole truth of why she did what she did. Apparently, Marty had been on disability ever since getting in a car accident a few years back, but he was able to make ends meet by illegally selling his prescription narcotics. He left Glenn in charge of the money he made from his drug business so she could pay off important bills like the house mortgage. Glenn, however, wasted much of this money on gambling and kept lying to Marty about the mortgage payments. Marty eventually learned the truth when the bank announced that it would foreclose the house on May 12, 2015, the same day Glenn shot him to death. Rather than facing the consequences of her own mistake, Glenn decided it was better to orchestrate a robbery gone wrong and take her own life. In the end, Glenn was arrested on the 24th of June 2016 and was later sentenced to life in prison for a crime against her own husband.
Well, she didn't do a darn good enough a job.
On November 18, 2011, at 4:35 a.m.
But she kind of failed at that murder-suicide, because the suicide bit didn't really work out for her.
Sydney Fire and Rescue Services responded to an automated fire alarm at the Quakers Hill nursing home.
Injured herself.
The fire was nothing short of a complete tragedy. As things started calming down, news outlets conducted interviews of the people involved. This included Roger Dean, a nurse who was on duty at the nursing home when the fire erupted.
Hi, I'm Roger. I'm one of the nurses, and there was a fire, and I just quickly did what I can, get everyone out, and the smoke is just overwhelming, but you know, we got a lot of people out, so that's the main thing.
They're saying that there's still people unaccounted for.
She definitely wasn't there.
I'm not sure. The deputy is she's got the...
Also, this guy's accent is like halfway between Chinese and Australian. It is fucking with me so bad. It is absolutely screwing with me so bad.
The list of people there.
This video is probably going to get age restricted, so there's no point.
It looks like
doing the recording.
There's still probably a few people, and the people are trying their best to get everyone out at the moment. Yeah.
much.
By the time responders arrived at the scene, the fire had already engulfed a large portion of the building. According to later reports, the fire burned so intensely that even with full protective gear, some firefighters struggled to get close to the flames. What made this already dire situation even worse was that the burning ward housed bedridden dementia patients who were completely unable to escape on their own. Outside, rescue workers could hear the desperate cries for help, but were powerless to act because of the extreme heat. Despite these difficulties, they managed to get over 100 residents to safety.
But so sad that her husband had to die.
Those trying to help, however, was Roger Dean, who rushed in to secure vital medication records before firefighters stopped him from going back into the flames. This man was hiding a disturbing secret beneath the surface. As it turns out, Roger was the one who started the fire in the first place. It all started with him stealing prescription medication from the nursing home by the hundreds. Just a day before the fire, security cameras caught him accessing the medication closet 36 different times during his shift to steal pills and capsules. However, his luck ran out when other staff members at the nursing home noticed the missing medication and reported it to the police. At this point, Roger knew it was only a matter of time before he got caught. So he came up with the horrible idea.
Despite having a very funny accent, this guy's absolutely a scumbag.
To start a fire and steal the medication records during the chaos. And while he managed to execute this plan successfully, the fire also resulted in 11 elderly residents losing their lives to the flames.
Damn.
After he was arrested, Roger came up with the most bizarre excuse to explain his actions.
It was like Satan saying to me that it's the right thing to do.
In actuality, there was no Satan or demon telling him to start the fire in the nursing home. He was just a prescription meds junkie who committed a horrendous crime while trying to cover his tracks. Later investigation even uncovered footage of him admiring his handiwork on the morning of the fire. The seemingly innocent video of him being interviewed now carries a much more disturbing tone. He stood trial in the Supreme Court in May 2013 and was given a life sentence without the possibility of parole for 11 counts of murder.
So he's still rotting in jail today.
On May 16, 1992, Mexican singer-songwriter Chelino Sanchez gave one of his best performances to date.
Alright, well, good band.
He performed many of his popular songs before ending the concert in spectacular fashion. The fans loved every second of it. Little did they know at the time, this was going to be the last time they would ever see him perform. It all tied back to the origin of Chelino's music. You see, Chelino was born in 1960 in a very poor farming region in Sinaloa, Mexico. Even worse than poverty, Chelino's village was marked by rampant inequality, where a few rich and powerful men had the power to do whatever they wanted. Unfortunately, Chelino experienced this inequality firsthand when a local thug named El Chapo Perez assaulted one of his sisters. However, Chelino wasn't going to let that slide. When he was just 15 years old, he spotted El Chapo at a party. And without a second thought, Chelino went up to El Chapo, drew his gun, and killed him at point-blank range. But since El Chapo was a well-connected man, killing him forced Chelino to flee to Tijuana before crossing the border into the US. After establishing a foothold in America, Chelino went into business with his brother in Mexico, smuggling Mexicans into the US. However, this operation came to an end in 1984 when his brother was killed in a hotel in Tijuana. This inspired Chelino to write a song commemorating his brother, but he did so in the most unconventional way. The song was written in a traditional Mexican style called corrido. For the lyrics, Chelino spoke openly about him and his brother's life, not shying away from the topics of drugs and violence. During this time, he himself ended up in prison in Tijuana. There, other inmates loved his unique style of music, causing it to spread across the Mexican underworld by the time he got out. It also gained a new name called narco corrido. After getting out of prison, Chelino kept working on his music and quickly became one of the biggest stars of his era. By 1991, he was selling out arenas for his tour. However, given the genre of his music, he never managed to escape the violence he once came from. During one of his concerts in January of 1992, someone ran onto the stage with a gun. Instead of running to safety, Chelino decided to draw his own gun and engage in a shootout. This resulted in the death of the assailant as well as 10 people in the crowd getting injured. Chelino also got shot but managed to survive. However, his luck was about to run out. About 5 months later, Chelino performed in Culiacan, Mexico, delivering what would later be remembered as one of his best performances. And as we mentioned earlier, also his last. During the concert, someone came up to him and handed him a mysterious note. In the footage from that concert, we can clearly see Chelino read the note, become visibly shaken by it, begin sweating, and stare into the crowd for a very long time before resuming the performance. Near the end of this concert, Chelino made sure to properly say goodbye to everyone, including his friends and fans. Shortly after the concert ended, Chelino was kidnapped and executed with a bullet to the back of his head. The note he received on stage essentially said something along the lines of, "We're going to kill you after this performance." Chelino knew the threat was real, and that this performance we see in the video would be his last one. Unfortunately, the identities of the killers were never uncovered.
Of course
and it's
not.
unlikely they ever will be in the future.
Poor guy. He tried to live a good life. Jeez. It seems like he tried his best to live a good life. To a certain extent, but it seems like fate had dealt him a pretty bad hand. I don't agree with him illegally smuggling people into the country. But, I mean, what can you do, really? What can you do? Just goes, yeah, that one really kind of sucked the wind out of her sails, huh? Anyways, that'll be it for tonight. That's our hour up, everybody. That's the hour on the hour. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell so you don't miss notifications. Whatever else you want to do. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just doing this for fun. Once this stops being fun, it doesn't matter how many subscribers I have, I'm gonna stop. Wouldn't it be funny if I got like 1 million subscribers and then just dropped off the face of the YouTube platform suddenly? Wouldn't that be funny? That would be hilarious to me. Just get like massively popular, the most popular person on YouTube. Yes, never trust cops. But as well as that, have a good night, everybody. Have an awesome possum night. Thank you for hanging out with me. Please remember to stay out of areas you can get trapped in. Stay out of traffic. Stay out of car engine compartments and engines. Stay hydrated. Stay awesome, possums.